Swinging a fly ball, left field, it's deep, it's way back! The Tigers are going to the World Series!
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of The Wrap-Up. I'm your host, Nick Buckler. With me as always, sports blogger Dan Myers. Dan, thanks again for coming back, as always.
Thanks for having me.
We got a lot to talk about today. We're going to start off with the Detroit Tigers, as they were the only Detroit team in action. They started off on the road, finishing up a lengthy road trip against the Chicago White Sox, and the first two games were rough. Actually, lately, the bats have been rough. The starting pitching, which has been their bread and butter all season, has really not been coming around. They opened up the series with a 5-2 loss. Shane Greene, who was so good in his first three starts, where his ERA was a .37. Since then, he only lasted 2.2 innings in this game Tuesday night and gives up, I believe it was 4 earned runs. And his ERA is over 16 since his first three starts. That's not very good.
No, it's not. That was a really deflating road trip for the Tigers. It seemed like it took the wind out of their sails, and it's just a fluke of nasty events that happened, and hopefully they could get over that.
Yeah, the offense really has not been swinging either. They took the field on Wednesday to a 7-6 loss. In that game, Jabba Chamberlain comes in late, gives up 6 consecutive hits, which leads to 4 earned runs. One of the hits was debatable. It was a ground ball to Nick Castellanos over at third base. Bounces off of his glove, but they said it was hit too hot. They called it a hit, and that would have gotten him out of the inning with no runs, and they still would have led the game 6-3. They end up scoring 4 and winning the game 7-6. Jabba Chamberlain's struggles continue.
Yeah, they do, and that's unfortunate. I love Jabba Chamberlain. I think he's a great pitcher, and he just has a lot of potential, but he just hasn't been showing us that lately, and it's frustrating. Now you got to really reevaluate his situation with the Tigers.
You really got to reevaluate. I was questioning it when they brought him back before the season. It was only for $1 million for one season, after he claims he had offers from other teams on the table, but he was holding out for the one from Detroit. And Detroit eventually called right before spring training and gave him the one-year deal, but I'm not sure if I'm agreeing. I don't know how long of a leash you give him before you send him down or maybe outright release him.
That's true, yeah, and these early games are important, especially with rivals like Chicago and KC. So we have to win these games, and he really needs to turn his stuff around if he wants to stay with the Tigers.
Who would have thunk the stopper for the series to avoid the sweep would have been Kyle Lobstein. He goes 7 2/3 innings, no earned runs for the first time in his career, and then they turn the ball over to Joakim Soria, who comes in to get the last 4 outs of the game in impressive fashion. 4 batters, struck out all 4 of them to get the save, and the Tigers win the finale 4-1.
Absolutely. You can thank Victor Martinez for that also. That was an incredible game. And Lobstein, what an incredible youngster that's coming out of there. That's exciting.
It really is. And with Justin Verlander just now cleared to throw for the first time since before spring training it was. I think it was right before spring training. He's now eligible to throw some simulated work back home or in Detroit, wherever he happens to be. But Lobstein's come in, and he's taken the role as the 5th starter very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And listening to Justin Verlander talk about his injury, he's giving very vague answers and nothing that sounds promising. It sounds like he's going to have there's a lot of work in Verlander's future, and hopefully he can get over this injury. But it looks like we're in semi-good hands with Kyle Lobstein, so we'll see.
And even when Verlander, if he comes back, he's not going to be your ace, and he might not even be your number 2 starter with Anibal Sanchez, David Price, and depending on how good Simon and Greene continue to do, Verlander could be down as a 3 or a 4 guy.
Absolutely. He could be chasing this job. He definitely has to earn it. And we'll see how it goes. But like you said, it won't be the same Justin Verlander that we're used to. And that's unfortunate because we really were able to depend on him. And we haven't been getting that lately. There's no promise, it seems like. So we'll see how that goes.
I don't know if you're up on social media, but you can tell that the fans are getting in Justin Verlander's head as he posted an Instagram picture last week. And because people have been hard on him saying, he wasn't really trying to come back, if you will. And he says, "This message is for the haters. I am going to not enjoy my life today. I am just going to lay in bed and do nothing." And little do we know, Kate Upton was probably right there with him. So I'm sure he was really not enjoying life at that point of his day.
Absolutely. And for a professional athlete to respond to critics like that, I mean, especially just like little social network trolls, to me, that's not good.
Don't drink the haterade,
Exactly.
Justin. Exactly, yeah.
Exactly, yeah, I got that.
Don't drink the haterade. Don't drink it. Come on, he's better than that. He's been the ace of the staff for years. He's got 2 no-hitters, World Series appearances. Come on, you're better than that, JV. But then, Tigers get back to the team, come home now, place their division rival, Kansas City Royals. They take the first game. David Price on the mound. He was hot and cold as the innings went on. He would have a great couple innings, then get into some trouble, gave up 4 runs in the second or the third, but they steal it on a walk-off bunt, 6-5. But the point of that game was David Price tripping over a bat and apparently injuring his hamstring. He should be good to go for his next start, however.
Yeah, absolutely. That was pretty scary, being a big fan of David Price and seeing just a freak accident taking him out of the game like that. That's that bad luck that you don't want in your organization. But that was an incredible game. There was 2 big plays there where it looked like they would have been out on the plate, but they ended up stealing the run. So that was a real interesting game, fun, nerve-wracking. They had all the different bits of a fun game. So
it really did. That second inning for the Tigers is one I want to talk about, in which they had no outs for the first 6 batters of the inning. They had the bases loaded a few times, only came out with 4 runs, which is still a really good inning to have. But it would have been nice to see him get more. I think they had a double play in there, which the twin killings have really been a problem for the Tigers batters all year, in particular J.D. Martinez.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one thing that we see every year is the men left on base, and that is just so frustrating for a Tigers fan. Especially, all that hard work, you get them on base, and then nothing comes of it. And those are easy points that we should be getting, but we're not. And that really needs to change, especially as the season goes along.
J.D. Martinez really been struggling this year. He's been, at the beginning, he was hitting the cover off the ball, not just home runs, but shooting the gaps, getting base hits, doubles, triples, what have you. And lately, it's been either a strikeout or a double play for JD.
Yep, yeah, something's going on. It's it's still early on to be worrying about that, but when he starts off strong like that, and then with the injuries and stuff like that, it's hard to know what's going on. So hopefully he can turn this around. It's just a little slump, and we can get him back on track.
Anibal Sanchez looks to right the ship Saturday. Tigers on national TV on Fox Sports 1. Not so much. His struggles continue. Tigers dropped this one 6-2. Anibal Sanchez, really outside of 2 starts this year, has been terrible.
Yes, he has. Yeah, it's frustrating. I was really excited about him, initially too. It just looked like he had so much promise and potential, and then I don't know what happened, but it just started going downhill, and that's too bad.
I still believe that the next Tigers pitcher to throw a no-hitter will be Anibal Sanchez. I think he's got the best stuff. He's just not putting it together right now. Batters are seeing his pitches too well. Maybe he's telegraphing it, I'm not sure, but I think he's going to turn it around soon and right the ship, and maybe the Tigers will put a string of wins together in a row. And then last night, Sunday night, Tigers and Royals, a pitcher's duel to say the least. Shane Green comes back, only gives up 4 hits, and that's good to see. He's really been struggling in his past 3 starts before that. But last night, Sunday Night Baseball, ESPN Game of the Week, to only allow 4 hits to the Kansas City Royals, who've been just tearing the cover off the baseball. 2-1, though, they drop it in extra innings after the rain delay, an hour and 15 minutes after the top of the 9th concluded. The Tigers had Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, and Yoenis Cespedes due up, all 0 for 3, and then the tarp comes out. I disagree with the timing of that. I think they should have let the Tigers come out and hit. Had they not scored, then you roll out the tarp and you come back for extra innings on a clean slate.
Yeah, absolutely. That was definitely a weird, long game. Unfortunately, I'm not sure I agree with Brad Ausmus's decision as far as pulling Miguel Cabrera out for the pitcher and Rajai Davis. So there's a lot of things that went wrong, but then again, there was a lot of promising things. Granted, it was a very long game, but there's a lot to be learned from that game, though.
It's just a young manager, maybe with his growing pains. He's learning as he goes. And I agree. You can't pull out the best hitter in baseball right there. He's clutch. So what about the rain delay? Oh, if he's going to get stiff, who cares? They're professional athletes. This is what they train for. You got to leave them in the game. Another thing, the bullpen continues to struggle. Not so much yesterday, but in general all season. Albuquerque, his ERA is through the roof. Jabba Chamberlain, we all know about him. He's been just brutal. And then you get these unproven guys like an Alex Wilson or guys like that. It's really frustrating to see these guys that you invest so much time and effort in, and they're not producing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's frustrating, too. It's just, you're so excited to get them going and for them to start contributing to the organization. When that doesn't happen, that could take a lot out of a team. But it's nice, on the other hand, to see these younger guys to step up and make a presence for themselves. So that's fantastic.
We've already touched on Jabba Chamberlain. Let's move to Al Albuquerque. This guy has one of the nastiest sliders when it's on. It hasn't been on for 2 seasons. His ERA is up over 6 now this year. Last year, he was hot and cold, mostly cold. He can't find the plate. He's been walking guys left and right. We've been losing games on walk-off walks in the past, wild pitches from Albuquerque. It's only a matter of time with him, too, before you got to cut him loose.
Oh, absolutely, yes. It's try and get rid of him, while we got some value still with him. But then again, it's, on the other hand, devil's advocate, I don't know, how much more do you want him to hurt your organization?
You can't.
And you can't.
You can't.
Yeah.
And I don't even think he has any trade value. I think you either send him to AAA Toledo or you outright cut him.
Yeah.
I think, but what do we have in the minors? I'm not sure.
That's the one unfortunate thing is the Tigers were not really known for their minor league
Their
teams.
farm system,
Their farm system,
for lack of a better word, is horrible.
Yeah.
It really is. And that's why I give Dave Dombrowski so much credit, is he's able to put a team together with nothing in the minor leagues, trading away these prospects. I want to talk about Devin Travis in Toronto. He was a second base prospect that the Tigers had going into this season. He's not going to play this year. You have Ian Kinsler at second base. You have Jose Iglesias at shortstop. Romine's a good defensive backup. So is Hernan Perez. But Devin Travis, he's not going to play. He's got high potential. And they trade him for Anthony Gose, who I think has been incredible out there in center field. He's leading off well. He's from the left side. He can steal you a couple bags a game. He's really good. But Devin Travis in Toronto is just rifling the ball out of the ballpark. 9 home runs already, and he's playing a mean second base.
Yes, I love Ghost, but that's frustrating to see with that type of trade. I mean, at least we got something from him. He is putting stuff together. He is stealing bags, so that's great. But you also have to wonder, how long do you want to go on not having a farm system, not having potential down there? And maybe that's something that they need to look out for. Should Dave Dombrowski go? There's always talks at the end of the year, especially when they're disappointing, whether or not we should keep him or he should stay. So that's one thing I think he really needs to fix if he wants to be a little bit more long-term here, and that's something they have to improve in for sure.
I want to talk about injuries now. Alex Avila goes on the 15-day disabled list, and they call up Brian Holiday, who last year was very serviceable in his backup role behind Avila. This year, James McCann earns the spot over Brian Holiday to back up Alex Avila, but now with the forearm laceration that he had, he's now going to go spend some time on the disabled list, and I could care less when he comes back. I think James McCann has been playing really well behind the plate and offensively. And Brian Holiday played good enough last year. I think when you mix him in this year, I think he's going to do a pretty well job.
Yeah, absolutely. More often than not, I was really surprised with James McCann. I really like him. He's actually become a really developed player, and he's made some incredible plays, and he's definitely a big asset to the team. It's nice to see him step up like that.
I'm really looking forward to see him get in there and get a chance. But I really like James McCann. He can hit with power, as we could see with that inside the park home run last week for his first major league home run. That was really good.
That was incredible, yes.
But I really like the way he's handling the pitching staff. He's worked with a lot of the young guys that are coming in from the bullpen, as well as Lobstein in the starting rotation, who has played with him down in AAA and AA all the way up. And it's a breath of fresh air for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said it better myself. That was fantastic. Yeah, he's a terrific guy, and he's definitely shown potential. And especially Kyle Lobstein too, so for those two to be getting together and putting practicing, that's incredible.
The injury bug's still hitting the Tigers. Jose Iglesias is still nursing that tender groin that he suffered early last week against Chicago. He said he still needs some time off, maybe a couple games here and there. He should be back late to mid this week. And as well, Joe Nathan out for the year, as we know, with his elbow surgery to repair the UCL, I believe, one of his ligaments in his elbow. His career could be over as far as I'm concerned. He's getting up there in age. His fastball's lost velocity by near 8 to 10 miles per hour. And his splitter that he's been known for, just really, the life on that's just been dead, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, absolutely. So is his fan base, considering his little antics. But, I feel like there's a lot of injuries that we're also not hearing about. I feel that it's just been swept under the rug because this Tiger team, we've had some weird instances, but it feels like just something's not right in that dughouse. Maybe whether it's just a mental uplifting that they need. Does Brad Ausmus have to, get on more of his star players? I feel like there's something that we don't know about that's going on in there, and it's frustrating. You want them to just get out of that funk, and hopefully they can do that sooner than later.
This offense should be smacking the cover off the baseball. And 1 run, 2 runs, 6 runs, 4 runs, 6, 2. It's hot and cold. It's a roller coaster ride. But one guy who I think is still just hobbling all over the place, as we can see, Victor Martinez. I don't know why he's in the lineup. He can't run. He can barely walk. He's hit 1 home run all year. It's not like they're keeping in there for his power for him to trot around the bags. And he's hurting the team on the base paths. When you get guys shooting the gaps trying to get a double, Victor's station to station. He's only going to go to second base on a double from first. And it's really frustrating to see. His knee is in pain. And then when he swung against Pittsburgh a few weeks ago, you could tell he tweaked something in his back. He needs time off. And I don't know what it's going to take for Ausmus to realize he's hurting the team more than he's helping the team at this point. And his batting average is only .240. I mean, he's not ripping the cover off the baseball, but for base hits because he can't move, he's hurting the team.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially watching the national coverage yesterday on ESPN, that was the big topic of discussion every time he was brought up. Anytime he was, even on camera, that's what they talked about. And so when it's that noticeable, you really have to take care of that. You have to have that fixed. You got to let him heal and recuperate, because that's just not right. Like you said, that's hurting the team, especially in the long run, especially if they want him to go for a long postseason. And
they signed him to a 4-year contract, so I don't know, do they want him to last the 4 years, or do they want him to get burned out this year? And sorry, Victor,
and have a
we're going to pay. It's going to be the Johan Franzen of the Detroit Tigers.
Yeah, let's hope not. That's.
And no. I really don't want to have another one of those in Detroit. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
We're going to switch gears now over to hockey, and the hot topic of discussion is Mike Babcock. He's the top free agent right now in the market, and he's a head coach. And we've been privileged enough to have him for the last 10 years. Hopefully to have him for many more to come. I really hope Ken Holland and the Ilitches can come to a conclusion and sign Mike Babcock through the future, at least 3 to 4, 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. That was I don't know about you, but I really started sweating when they released that over the weekend, saying that he's allowed to go talk to other teams. That's something you definitely don't want to hear, especially with a talented, experienced coach like Mike Babcock. Early on, I've been saying that I don't believe he's going to be going anywhere. I just, put the rumors to the side as far as him going to Toronto, Edmonton, wherever, San Jose. So after this weekend, that's not good. I think Red Wings fans should start sweating, because it doesn't sound promising. He is not cemented in Detroit, and after this weekend, that is not good news for a Red Wings fan.
Let me tell you something. He was going to be allowed to talk to teams anyways. He's not going to just talk to Detroit and say, oh, sorry, Detroit, I'm going to go to Toronto without talking to them. He's going to have to talk to teams to realize what he has here in Detroit is good, or what they are offering somewhere else is better. And I think the only place he's going to go if he leaves Detroit is going to be the Edmonton Oilers. They have just an array of young draft picks that they've had over the years who haven't panned out. But this Connor McDavid coming in, who they have the #1 overall pick, he's hands down going to be the #1 overall pick. And they're saying he's the player of the century. He's the next Gretzky, the next Crosby, the next Howe. They're saying this kid is the real deal. And if Babcock, he's from Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, which is a little bit east of Edmonton. And now Peter Chiarelli, the new GM, who came over from Boston this year, with Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle, Mike Nugent-Hopkins, the list goes on of young talent that they have. Maybe if they get Babcock, free agents are going to start going over there, and they could really put a good team together.
Yeah, and that could be very scary. That could be the next all-star team. They could be the next Pittsburgh Penguins, back when they were talented and going for cup runs. They pick up Babcock. That'll be something. That'll be a force to be reckoned with. But on the other hand, does Mike Babcock really want to go through that whole rebuilding process? Yeah, there's a lot of talent on that team, but he's put his dues in here in Detroit. When we had to do that refresh after Nick Lidstrom left, after we lost all those Stanley Cup winners and all those experienced veterans, and he had to go through that. And does he want to go through that again? Maybe, maybe not. But then again, like Nick was saying, there's a lot of talent on that team, and the struggle, as far as putting a good roster together, might not be there like it was when we were bringing up the new guys on the wings. So we should see that. That should be really interesting, and
it really will.
I don't know. I don't like how I feel about that right now.
It's really tough to get a grasp on where he's going to go. I'm really hoping he stays here. I think he's the best coach, hands down, in the NHL. But a guy that they say that will be good if Mike Babcock decides to leave is Jeff Blashill down in Grand Rapids. I'm not sure I'm sold on Jeff Blashill. I want a guy with experience. Yes, Blashill's coached pretty much our whole team down in Grand Rapids, and he's leading them on another deep run in the AHL playoffs as they're on the verge of sweeping the Rockford Ice Dogs. And they were down 2-0 to the Toronto Marlies, ended up coming back winning 3 straight to win that. Teemu Pulkkinen's been playing well. Alexei Marchenko's been playing well. Obviously, Peter Mrazek led him there in years past, and now he's up with the big club. But I don't know if that's coaching. Sure, the player development in Detroit is unreal. Grand Rapids, unreal. Erie, unreal. It's good. But I want a guy like a Todd McClellan or maybe even a Randy Carlisle. I want someone who's been there, who's done it before, to lead these guys to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the one bright thing about that is he's already coached half of our starting lineup right now because they've all been in Grand Rapids. That's great. But on the other hand, it's not the show. It's not the NHL. And it's a completely different atmosphere, especially, like you were saying, without the experience in the Stanley Cup playoffs, experience just with the NHL in general. And, you know, if it was the same, you wouldn't see all these struggles with, you know, these minor league players coming up and playing in the show. So if it was the same, yeah, I'd be excited to have him up here. But like you said, there's a big difference. And I'm not sure if I'm sold with him being able to take the reins yet.
One thing I want to touch on before we decide to say goodbye for today is the PGA Tour. Last night in the Players' Championship, there was a 3-hole aggregate playoff with 3 players. Sergio Garcia, a guy whose name who hasn't been out there in a while. Ricky Fowler, who finished eagle birdie to get to the playoff, and he was in the clubhouse for an hour and a half with the lead. His girlfriend, his mother, and his grandmother were all going to the airport because he was shots back at the turn. Someone had to call them and say, you might want to get back here. He just made a run. He's in the clubhouse with the lead. And then the up-and-comer, Kevin Kistner, comes in, and they actually go to the 4th hole, which was the Island Green on the 17th, which is the famous hole at TPC of Sawgrass. And Ricky Fowler sticks it 4 feet to win the tournament after an immaculate comeback. I really just want to touch on that. It was a really exciting finish, that golf tournament.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of Sergio Garcia. I feel like he complains too much, but that was an incredible ending last night, yesterday. What a Mother's Day surprise for Ricky's mom. You know, it's too bad she was already on her way to the airport, but, you know, hey, I'm sure she didn't mind coming back to see her son win. That was an incredible matchup.
One thing I noticed when they showed Sergio Garcia in the clubhouse, when Kistner made it to be the 3rd man in, and he could have won with a birdie putt on 18. He ends up missing, parring, so then there's a 3-way playoff. Sergio didn't look like he wanted to go back out there. He was content with the 2nd place money, and he was the one who actually didn't have to play in the 4th hole of the playoff because he only parred. So he maybe a sense of arrogance with him, for lack of a better term.
Oh, absolutely.
But he's been around. Maybe he deserves it. He's earned it over the years. I used to own, my first pair of golf cleats was a Sergio Garcia pair way back in 1999 when I was out banging balls at CJ Barrymore's. But enough of that. It's been a great show. Thanks again for coming out, Dan Myers, as always. I'm your host, Nick Buckler. Be sure to join us next time for another episode of The Wrap Up.